They stole my inheritance. And in the ashes of that betrayal, I found the one thing worth more than gold: myself. My name is Ava Reynolds. And for the first decade of my marriage to Liam, I believed in the kind of love that weathers storms. The quiet kind, built on shared grocery runs and late-night laughs over takeout. We met in the fluorescent haze of a community college library in Seattle, both of us buried in textbooks we couldn't afford. I was 20, studying graphic design on a shoestring scholarship, sketching dreams on napkins. Liam, with his easy grin and calloused hands from weekend construction gigs, was chasing an engineering degree to escape the cycle of his family's barely scraping by life. "You're my plot twist," he'd whispered that first night as rain pattered against the library windows, our fingers brushing over a borrowed copy of The Alchemist. We built a life from those fragile beginnings, a cozy two-bedroom rental in Capitol Hill filled with mismatched furniture and the scent of my homemade chai, strong, spiced, a nod to the Indian roots my parents left behind when they immigrated in the 80s. Liam's family, Irish-American through and through, folded me in like I'd always belonged. Dinners at his parents' place in Ballard, where his mom Maureen would tease me about adding exotic flavors to her shepherd's pie. But beneath the hearth's glow, cracks were forming. Liam's job at the mid-tier tech firm wasn't panning out. Layoffs loomed like storm clouds, and our savings account echoed hollow. "We'll figure it out, love," he'd say, pulling me close, his voice a balm against the anxiety gnawing at my edges. I nodded, always the one to smooth feathers, to trust that love meant leaning in. My own wound ran deeper, the ghost of my mother's abandonment when I was 8, leaving me with a father who poured every ounce of his quiet devotion into raising me alone. "People leave, Beta," he'd said in his soft Punjabi lilt. "But family, that's what you build." So I built mine fiercely, clinging to Liam like he was the anchor to my drifting heart. Enter Serena, Liam's older sister by 5 years, the golden child who'd skipped the community college grind for a full ride at Stanford, now 35, single, and soaring as a venture capitalist in San Francisco. She was the one who swooped in with helpful advice during our lean months, wire transfers disguised as loans, weekend getaways she insisted we take to recharge. Her laugh was champagne sharp, her hugs lingering just a beat too long, as if measuring my worth. "You're good for him, Ava," she'd say, eyes appraising over brunch mimosas. "Keeps him grounded." I smiled, ignoring the subtle sting, chalking it up to her perpetual singledom, her unspoken envy of our little nest. What I didn't see, what no one saw, was the rot festering in her smile, a resentment as old as their shared childhood bedroom, where Dad's favors always tilted toward the responsible son, leaving Serena to claw for scraps. It started on a gray October morning, the kind where Seattle's fog clings like regret. My phone buzzed at 6:17 a.m., shattering the rare silence. Unknown number, but the voice on the other end was Maureen's, fractured by sobs. "Ava, it's Dad. Liam and Serena's dad. Heart attack. Last night. He's gone." The world tilted. Patrick Reynolds, Pat to everyone. The man who taught me to change a tire and shared stories of his Dublin grandparents over Guinness, gone at 68, mid-sentence during a neighborhood poker game. I drove through the drizzle to the hospital, Liam's texts pinging unanswered as I gripped the wheel, my mind a whirlwind. By the time I arrived, the family was a huddle of red-rimmed eyes in the sterile waiting room. Liam crushed me against his chest, his shirt damp with tears. "I can't believe it, Ava. He was fine yesterday." Serena stood apart, arms crossed, her designer trench coat impeccable even in grief, murmuring condolences to the nurses with that polished poise. The funeral was a blur of black umbrellas and casseroles, the church of Fremont packed with Pat's union buddies and our patchwork relatives. I held Liam's hand through the eulogy, his grip bruising, while Serena delivered a flawless tribute, stories of Pat's unwavering support for her ambitions, glossing over the years he'd scrimped to fund Liam's dreams too. Afterwards, at the wake in their childhood home, a creaky craftsman in Wallingdon, now Serena's occasional crash pad, we numbed the ache with whiskey and whispers. "He'd want us strong," Liam slurred, his head on my shoulder. Serena hovered, refilling glasses, her eyes glassy but distant, like she was already calculating the ledger of loss. 2 weeks later, the will reading shattered the fragile peace. Patrick's lawyer, a bespectacled relic named Mr. Hargrove, summoned us to his oak-paneled office downtown. The air smelled of old books and stale coffee. Liam fidgeted beside me, his knee bouncing. Serena sat rod-mod straight, scrolling her phone with feigned nonchalance. Patrick was meticulous, he began, adjusting his glasses. To his son, Liam Reynolds. The family home in Wallingdon, free and clear, with the stipulation it be maintained as a gathering place for kin. Liam exhaled, a ghost of relief. I knew how he'd eyed that house as our future, a step up from our rental's leaky roof. Then the bomb. And to his daughter-in-law, Ava Reynolds, the bulk of his estate, savings, investments, and a trust fund totaling $1.2 million. Patrick admired your steadiness, Ava, and wished to honor the daughter he never had. The room spun. Me? Pat had slipped me notes over the years. For your sketches, kiddo. But this? A fortune? Enough to erase our debts, fund a studio for my designs, maybe even start the family we'd whispered about. Liam's hand went slack in mine. Serena's phone clattered to the table, her face a mask cracking at the edges. "What?" she breathed, voice a razor. Hargrove cleared his throat. "It's ironclad. Pat updated it last spring, after his checkup." I stammered thanks, heat rising in my cheeks, but the joy curled fast. Driving home, Liam was silent, jaw tight. "It's amazing, babe, for us." But his eyes flicked to the rear view, where Serena tailed us in her sleek Audi, her hazard lights an accusatory blink. That night, as I lay awake staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, a whisper of doubt crept in. Why me? Pat's word from years back echoed. "You're the glue, Ava. Don't let anyone tell you different." I pushed it down, curling into Liam's warmth. Trust was our foundation. What could go wrong? The first crack appeared subtly, like a hairline fracture in porcelain. 2 days post-reading, I logged into the joint account to transfer a chunk for our overdue mortgage, $50,000, a cushion against Liam's next paycheck. The balance stared back. No, less. A pending wire, flagged as estate transfer. Heart pounding, I called the bank. "Mrs. Reynolds, that authorization came from your husband yesterday. All in order." Liam, home early from a meeting, swore it was a mix-up. Serena suggested I prep some funds for taxes. Pat's estate stuff gets complicated. His laugh was forced, eyes not meeting mine. I nodded, swallowing the unease, blaming grief's fog. But as days bled into weeks, the discrepancies mounted. A $20,000 consulting fee to an unfamiliar firm, a $15,000 vacation booking that vanished from our calendar. Liam's excuses piled like autumn leaves.
overtime stress, a surprise project. I'm handling it, Ava. For us. Each time I'd retreat into self-blame, my old wound throbbing. Am I too needy? Too suspicious? Serena's visits grew frequent, her support laced with barbs. Pat always had a soft spot for strays, she'd quip over wine, her gaze lingering on my wedding band. But legacies? They belong to blood. I laughed it off, but the words burrowed, feeding the fear that I'd never truly belong. By month's end, the trust was hemorrhaging. $300,000 evaporated into ether. I confronted Liam in our kitchen, the chai kettle whistling accusation. What's going on? This isn't you.
His face crumpled, hands trembling as he sank to the stool. Ava, I borrowed for the firm. They promised a promotion, but it fell through. I was going to tell you. Tears streaked his cheeks, and my heart fractured. Not betrayal, not yet, just the raw ache of shared failure. I held him, whispering forgiveness, but the seed of doubt had taken root. How deep did it go, and who else knew? Little did I know, the true thief wore a sister's smile. The fog of that confession clung for days, turning our home into a museum of unspoken accusations. Liam threw himself into job hunts, his laptop a constant glow in the living room, while I buried myself in freelance gigs, logos for startups that paid in exposure more than cash. But the money drain persisted, a slow bleed I couldn't staunch. Each bank alert was a fresh stab. $8,000 to S. Reynolds Consulting, $12,000 funneled into crypto trades that tanked overnight. Why didn't I see it coming? The question looped in my mind like a glitchy track, my abandonment scar flaring. People leave, Beta, but they also lie. One crisp November evening, as Seattle's leaves turned to fire under street lamps, I decided to dig. Not confrontation, not yet, but quiet reconnaissance, the kind Pat had taught me during our fishing trips to Lake Union. Cast wide, reel slow. I waited until Liam's snores rumbled from the bedroom, then slipped into his study, the door creaking like a guilty conscience. His desk was a chaos of sticky notes and coffee rings, rejection emails from Boeing, a scribbled, "Call Serena, urgent," dated the day after the will reading. My stomach twisted. Why her? The laptop password was our anniversary. Easy, too easy. Folders spilled open. Estate docs, investments, a subfile labeled contingency. Heart hammering, I clicked. Spreadsheets bloomed, transfers time-stamped, routed through shell accounts I'd never heard of. One entry leaped. $75,000 to a Cayman Trust beneficiary SR Holdings. Serena. And there, buried in the metadata, a forwarded email chain. Liam to Serena, time-stamped 2:14 a.m. post-funeral. Sis, this changes everything. Ava doesn't deserve it, not after dragging me down. We split it? 60-40, your way for old times? The words blurred through hot tears. Dragging him down? Me, the one who'd worked doubles at the cafe to cover his tuition gaps, who'd held his hand through panic attacks when the layoffs hit. I slammed the laptop shut, breath ragged, the room spinning. Not him. It can't be. But the evidence mocked me. A fabricated document tucked in the folder, a forged addendum to Pat's will, amending the bequest to family unit, dated back a week before his death. Signatures crisp, notarized. Liam's hand, shaky but unmistakable. I stumbled to the bathroom mirror, splashing cold water on my face, staring at the stranger with hollow eyes. What now? Call the cops? Divorce papers? The thoughts ricocheted, each more terrifying than the last. Instead, I curled on the couch till dawn, the city's hum a distant lullaby. When Liam emerged, rumple-haired and hopeful, "Coffee, love," I forced a smile, the lie bitter on my tongue. Sure, black, like my mood. Suspicion coiled tighter with each passing day, a serpent in our Eden. Liam's touches grew tentative, his jokes forced, as if he sensed the shift. "You okay?" seemed distant. I'd nod, murmuring about deadlines, but inside, rhetorical storms raged. Was our whole life a setup? Did Pat know? Could I trust my own eyes? Serena's texts pinged more often. "Lunch soon. Miss my bro-in-law's better half." Each emoji a barb. I declined twice, then caved on the third, meeting her at a waterfront cafe in Belltown, the sound's gray waves mirroring my turmoil. She arrived flawless as ever, scarf knotted just so, ordering a kale smoothie with the authority of someone who never second-guessed. "You look wrecked, Ava. Grief's a bitch, huh?" Her concern dripped syrup sweet, but I scanned for tells, the averted gaze, the fidgeting fingers. "It's more than that," I hedged, stirring my untouched latte. "The money, things aren't adding up." Her laugh tinkled like shattering glass. "Oh, honey, estates are mazes. Liam's stressed. Bless him, always the worrier. Let me help sort." She slid a folder across the table. "Preliminary audit. See? All legit." Glossy printouts, charts in soothing blues, transfers approved by Hargrove, notes on tax optimizations. It looked airtight, but a post-it peaked. Handle L, keep him in line. Her handwriting, looped and elegant. I pocketed the doubt, thanked her weakly, and fled to the ferry terminal, the salt air stinging my eyes. Back home, I cross-referenced. Hargrove's office confirmed no such approvals. The forgery was amateurish up close, ink bleeding like guilt. Liam's work, I realized, the serpent hissing louder. That night, as he showered, I rifled his phone. Text to Serena, coded, package sent. Yours next week? Photos of Pat's old checkbook, scanned and altered. The prime crystallized. My husband, the man I'd vowed to weather storms with, unraveling our life for a quick fix. Despair clawed in. How do you unlove the lie? But a spark flickered. Pat's voice in my ear. "Steady, kiddo. Truth is in the current." I bookmarked the evidence, vowing silence until I had proof unassailable. Little did I know, the river ran deeper, toward a betrayer who'd worn trust like camouflage.
Tucking the folder away, a loose photo fluttered free. Not Pat's, but a faded snapshot of Liam and Serena as kids. Him beaming, her scowling beside a birthday cake with one candle snuffed. On the back, in Pat's scrawl, for Serena, "Sorry, kid, choices." The first thread of her backstory unraveled, hinting at envies older than me. November bled into December, Seattle's relentless rain a mirror to the deluge in my soul.
Christmas lights twinkled mockingly from neighborhood windows, but our apartment felt like a tomb. Silent dinners, Liam's averted eyes, my sketches abandoned in a corner, colors bleeding like accusations. The change arc's third phase gripped me, reversion to the past, that desperate grasp for how things were. I'd cook his favorite, lamb curry with naan from the corner shop, hoping the aromas would summon the boy from the library. "Remember our first Diwali?" I'd murmur, lighting tea lights on the sill. He'd smile, faint and fractured, but the warmth wouldn't stick. "Yeah, love, cinnamon and chaos." Then silence, thick as fog. But the lies compounded, each a brick in the wall between us. Another $40,000 vanished, traced to a charity donation in Pat's name. But the nonprofit was a ghost, LLC dissolved months prior. Liam's phone buzzed incessantly. "Work," he claimed, but I'd glimpsed the preview. "Don't slip, she's sniffing." My despondency deepened, a hopeless mire where self-blame festered. I pushed him to this, my dreams too big, my needs too heavy. Nights I'd trace the scar on my palm from a childhood kitchen mishap with Dad, whispering, "You're enough, aren't you?" The confrontation brewed inevitable, erupting on a windswept Saturday as we strung lights on our tiny balcony. A bulb shattered in my grip, shards drawing blood. Damn it! The curse escaped, raw. Liam turned, concern flickering. "Ava, talk to me, you've been a ghost." The dam cracked. A ghost or the fool you made me? The transfers, Liam, the forgeries. I saw the emails. She doesn't deserve it? Me? Words tumbled, venom-laced, years of swallowed doubt surging. He paled, staggering back against the railing. "It's not God, Ava. Let me explain." Lies spilled, the pressure from his boss, a temporary scheme to flip investments, Serena's innocent role as advisor. She warned me off, actually, said it was risky. His eyes pleaded, hands outstretched, but reversion shattered against the truth. The man before me wasn't my anchor, he was adrift, moral gray choices carving canyons in our trust. I fled to Dad's old armchair, the one Pat had reupholstered in tartan, curling fetal as sobs racked me. Hopelessness peaked, a void where love once bloomed. End it, run. But Pat's photo from the folder haunted, that snuffed candle. Curiosity clawed through despair. I needed more. Googling late into the night, fragments emerged. Old news clips on Reynolds' family disputes, Pat's union battles, where he'd favored Liam's practical path over Serena's flights of fancy. A blog post, anonymous. "Golden child left in shadows. VC starlet sues dad for emotional withholding. Sibling rivalry, weaponized." "Ava, irregularity in the addendum, ink analysis pending, but witness signature matches a Bay Area notary, not local. Serena's territory. Pat always picked you the outsider. Enjoy your scraps." Deleted in panic, but timestamped pre-funeral. Calculated deceit blooming. Liam's confession over midnight tea, voice breaking. "She orchestrated it, Ava, pressed me, said it would balance the scales. I covered for her. God, I'm sorry." Not mastermind, but accomplice, his wound, validation hunger, laid bare. The injury throbbed, love twisted into complicity. Despondent, I whispered, "How do we fix what shattered?" His silence was the cruelest cut. Reversion impossible, the arc bent toward confrontation. But who to face first? The revelation of Liam's complicity hung between us like a noose, tightening with every shared breath in our rain-lashed apartment. December's chill seeped through the windows, frosting the panes where I'd once traced hearts in the steam. Now,
Those same windows mocked me, blurry outlines of a life dissolving. My change arc teetered on the precipice. No longer passive shock, not yet the boundary-setting phoenix, but mired in a moral quagmire. Expose them both? Salvage the scraps of us? Or walk away whole? The questions gnawed, relentless as the fairy horns wailing from the sound. Liam's apologies became a litany, whispered over cold takeout and half-hearted attempts at intimacy. I was weak, Ava. Her pressure? It started small. Text after the reading. Dad robbed me. We fix it together. I thought it was justice. For the house. For Mom's meds we'd pay someday. His anxious edge sharpened, validation-craving eyes pleading for absolution. I'd nod, detached, my core wound throbbing. Abandonment isn't just leaving, it's eroding from within. But forgiveness? A luxury I couldn't afford. Not when the trust fund's remnants, now a skeletal $400,000, whispered of deeper sabotage. I played the long game, feigning fragile reconciliation while my freelance hours doubled as detective work. Pat's old fishing box in the garage yielded a hidden ledger, yellowed pages of family IOUs, Pat's meticulous script noting Serena's tuition shortfall, forgiven 2008, and Liam's shop tools, gift, not loan, but one entry chilled. As his bitterness, therapy urged, refused, watches L too close. Sibling rivalry, not abstract, but visceral, a grudge nursed over decades. She saw me as the interloper stealing her brother's light. It came on a sleety afternoon, Liam out networking, code for damage control, me sifting Serena's forgotten scar from the coat closet, a cashmere whisper from her last support visit, a stiff edge crinkled in the lining, a receipt, crumpled but legible, $5,000 to Digital Forensics LLC, Bay Area address, dated 2 days pre-will reading, will amendment scan and notarization. My blood iced, not Liam's shaky hand, the pro's polish. I snapped a photo and drove to Hargrove's office, the wipers slashing like accusations. The lawyer's face drained as he compared. This isn't ours. Forgery, high end. And the notary, compromised, pulled license last year for fraud. Serena's web crystallized. She'd commissioned the addendum, coerced the witness, then leaned on Liam's desperation to execute. Under duress, he later admitted in a tear-choked voicemail I'd play on loop, she'd threatened to cut me off forever, Ava, said I'd lose the house, Mom's care. I was trapped. Accomplice, yes, but puppet to her strings. The true orchestrator unmasked, her calculated treachery, a scalpel to Pat's intentions. But the game changer wasn't just proof. It was the dilemma clawing my gut. Tucked in the ledger's back flap, a micro SD card, Pat's paranoia from union days. I slotted it into my laptop, breath held. Audio crackled. Pat's voice, frail but firm, time-stamped spring prior. Serena, kiddo, the will's set. Ava's the steady one. Liam needs that. Don't grudge it. Build your own. Her reply, venom distilled. You always chose him, the outsider over blood. I'll balance it, Dad. Watch me. Click. End. She'd known the bequest months ahead, plotted in shadows. Exposure meant ruining her empire. Deals whispered unstable. Invitations dried up. But silence. Complicity and theft? Chaining me to a hollow marriage? The moral crossroads loomed. Justice, cold and cleaving. Confront Serena, alert authorities, reclaim every cent? Or love family, the fragile tether to Liam, who'd shielded me from her worst? Nights blurred into fevered what-ifs. Divorce him? Keep the house? Sue her? Lose them both? Pat's heart-side wisdom echoed from a faded note in the box. Worth isn't in vaults, Ava. It's in the spine you grow. My spine ached, bending towards self-preservation. But the choice? It simmered, unresolved,
as New Year's Eve fireworks mocked from afar. Serena's next check-in text pinged. "Family dinner, Wallingford soon, let's heal." Heal. The word twisted like a knife. I typed back, fingers steady for the first time. "Yes, we need to talk." The trap sprung, my arc igniting. No more passivity. The climax beckoned. Seattle's winter gales heralding the storm. January's frost etched the Wallingford craftsman in silver, the family home a stage for the reckoning. Snow dusted the eaves like powdered regret, and inside, the hearth crackled, Maureen's doing, her hands trembling as she set the table with patch-chipped china. "It's been too long without him," she murmured, eyes on me with unspoken apology. Liam hovered in the kitchen, slicing carrots with mechanical precision, his anxiety a live wire. Serena arrived last, a vision in emerald wool, bearing a bottle of Napa Cab like an olive branch. "To new beginnings," she toasted upon entry, clinking glasses with theatrical warmth. Her eyes met mine over the rim, appraising, unyielding. Dinner unfolded in brittle civility. Stories of Pat's poker bluffs, Maureen's potato recipe dissected. But the air thickened, my pulse a war drum. Self-forgiveness first, I coached inwardly, the arc's pivot demanding it. For years, I'd blamed my neediness for Liam's drifts, my abandonment fear a chain I'd forged myself. No more. As dessert, apple crumble, steaming, hit the table, I set down my fork. "We need to talk about the will." Silence crashed like a dropped plate. Liam's knife clattered, Maureen's spoon froze in midair, Serena's smile held, porcelain cracked. "Ava, darling, water under the bridge. Hargrove is sorting the taxes." Her facade crumbled under my stare. I slid the folder across. Printouts, receipt, SD transcript. Taxes or theft? $800,000 rerouted, forgeries commissioned, your handwriting on the post-its, your voice on the tape. Liam confessed. He was your pawn. Her laugh started light, then fractured into a hiss. "Pawn? He begged Ava. Sis, help me provide. You with your sketches and chai dreams, draining him dry. Dad's pity gift? I earned every cent in that family." The bitterness erupted, core wound bared. "He cut me off at 18. Focus on Liam's future. I clawed to Stanford on loans. Watch you waltz in with immigrant grit and get the crown." Sibling rivalry, resentment toward Pat and I, spilling toxic. Liam interjected, voice breaking. "Enough, Serena. It was wrong. All of it." Maureen's gasp pierced the fray. "My babies! How?" The exposure rippled. Tears, accusations, the betrayer's consequence unfolding not in cuffs. No cops. This was family scalpel work. But emotional exile. Serena's empire teetered. Deals whispered unstable. Invitations dried up. She stormed out into the snow, slamming the door like a full stop. "Blood or not, you're dead to me." In the wreckage, I turned to Liam, boundaries crystallizing like frost. "I love you, the boy from the library, but trust? Rebuilt from ruins or not at all." He nodded, shattered but seeing, his gray choices born of desperation, now a mirror for growth. Maureen pulled me aside, hearthside embrace warm. "Pat saw your strength, girl. Claim it." The lesson etched deep. No revenge aspire, but self-forgiveness for my passivity. A quiet vow. I am the inheritance, steady, unstealable. We froze the remaining funds, lawyers looping in for restitution, Serena's shares clawed back, penalties biting. But the true resolution bloomed inward. Therapy sessions in a cozy Pike Place office where I unpacked Mom's ghost. Liam's AA meetings for his validation fixes. Setting boundaries became ritual. Weekly check-ins, no secrets jars for doubts. The arc completed, from guilt shackled to inner peace's guardian. Spring's tentative fingers pried open Seattle's grip by late March.
coaxing the cherry blossoms along the Burke-Gilman Trail into defiant pink explosions against the ever-present gray. The air hummed with that fragile optimism, the kind that follows a long freeze, carrying hints of salt from the sound and the earthy promise of new growth. Our old Capitol Hill rental had given way to a sun-drenched one-bedroom in Queen Anne, its wide windows framing views of the Olympics like a postcard reminder that horizons bend but don't break. No, the Wallingford Craftsman hadn't become our forever hearth, sold instead to a young architect couple who promised to honor Pat's stipulation of gathering place for kin. Their first open house already buzzing with Marine's casseroles and Dad's imported basmati. Pat's laughing from the clouds, Liam had said at the handover, his voice steady for the first time in months, clapping the new owner's shoulder with that old construction gig firmness. Liam and we'd woven our nest from the threads of ruin, nothing lavish, but laced with intention. The living room walls now held my sketches, no longer abandoned in corners, but framed and fierce, a series I'd titled Roots Reclaimed, swirling paisley vines twisting through Celtic thorns, colors bold as the boundaries we'd etched. Freelance had bloomed into something sustainable, a steady contract with a local design co-op, turning exposure gigs into paychecks that funded therapy copays and the occasional splurge on takeout butter chicken from Broadway's Hidden Gem. "You're the real plot twist now," Liam teased one evening as we sprawled on the thrift store sectional, feet tangled under a quilt Marine had pieced from Pat's old flannel shirts. His laugh came easier these days, the anxious edge dulled by AA meetings, where he'd unpack not just the borrowing, but the deeper hunger, the validation chase that had Pat's shadow long and his choices gray. "No more shortcuts, love. We're walking the long road, hand in hand." Trust's rebuild was no fairy tale montage. It was the daily grind of those no secrets jars on the kitchen counter, slips of paper folded like fragile origami. Afraid you'll drift again? Or miss the old ease, scared it's gone forever? We'd draw them over Sunday chai, my Assam strong and spiced, his black with a splash of cream, reading aloud without judgment, then sealing with a kiss or a cry. The arc's final curve, from guilt's shackles to inner peace's quiet guardianship, felt earned in those moments. A hearthside vigil where self-forgiveness wasn't a single epiphany, but a habit, like stirring the pot till the bitterness melts. Mom's ghost, unpacked in Pike Place sessions, her abandonment reframed not as my flaw, but a lesson in choosing anchors that hold. People leave, Beta, but you stay and build, Dad's lilt echoed. Serena's exile lingered like a frostbitten echo, her empire's teeter not a crash, but a slow unravel. Deals re-ratted through, stability concerns, her Napa cab toast swap for solitary Big Sur hikes, whispers in VC circles turning her golden sheen to tarnish. The clawed-back funds arrived in tranches, lawyers' letters crisp as her old audits, but no olive branch, no sisterly text. Dead to me, she'd hurled into the snow, and we'd let it stand. No pursuit, no pyre. Her consequence was the mirror we'd all glimpsed, resentment's root, starved of light, withering from within. Marine bridged what she could, her brunches a neutral ground of soda bread and sog paneer, eyes soft as she murmured, "She'll circle back when the wind shifts, Pat. Family's a boomerang." But we didn't wait. Our circle tightened to the steady.
Dad's Punjabi folk tales over video calls, his Jivanik Rangoli Hai, life's a pattern, smear it and redraw, becoming our mantra. The true payoff bloomed into small loops closed. Hargrove's final accounting, a modest restitution nest egg that seeded my first solo exhibition at a Fremont gallery. Hearth Whispers, prints that sold not for pity, but power. Strangers tracing the lines with murmurs of Me Too. Liam's pivot to a hybrid role at the co-op, debugging my digital mock-ups with that library boy grin. Our collaborations a quiet justice. Partners, not pawns. And me? Inner peace wasn't absence of storm, but sailing through it, spine straight as Pat's fishing rod, unstealable because it was mine, forged in the forge of fracture. As summer teased the edges of May, we'd picnic on Discovery Park's bluffs, chai thermos packed, the alchemist reread aloud, Ilara's name whispered as a maybe for the someday family we'd reclaim. What if the ultimate treasure isn't gold, Liam mused, grass tickling our elbows. Then the map we draw after the pirates steal it. I leaned into him, the sound sprawling below like possibility. Then we redraw love, stronger lines, deeper colors. Betrayal breaks the vessel, yes, but oh, the pour that follows, richer, spiced with wisdom won hard. If you've clutched shards like I did, felt the thief's shadow in your own hearth, hear this. You're the glue, uncrackable. Rise, reclaim, rebuild. The stars, they're yours to rewrite. In the quiet after the gale, remember, legacies aren't vaults to guard or gold to grieve, but the steady flame you tend within. Brew your chai fierce, set your boundaries like borders on a map, light your path with the stories only you can tell. Your worth? Eternal, unbreakable, a heart that warms worlds.